What makes a successful practice different from the ordinary practice? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. CATS Consultants, where innovation is the foundation of success. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. This is my co-host, Dr. Troy Fox. Troy, from success to ordinary is not a fine line. They're not on the same level, but why?
They're not on the same level, but yet the ability to reach that level is a lot closer than you think. A lot of people
It's
think
attainable for
out of
everyone.
reach. And we see a lot of practices. I'm gonna lay out the scenario and then have you talk about it for a little while. We see practices that are wildly successful. They provide multiple different revenue streams. Their practice has new patients calling for multiple different services. For example, in my practice, I may have a patient call that says, "Hey, I heard about Shockwave and I'm really interested in it." Or I may have a patient call and say, "Hey, I heard you do flexion distraction," or a patient
Mhm.
call and say, "Hey, I hear you do decompression." So there's multiple revenue streams, or maybe dry needling, or there's so many different options out there. And when I look at my practice, I look at it as chiropractic is one of the services that we provide. What I see sometimes in practices that are stuck is that chiropractic is the service. And every once in a while, if chiropractic isn't the total answer or isn't the answer at all, which sometimes it isn't the answer,
Mhm.
that we then think about doing a different service, but the chiropractic practice is promoted as only chiropractic, but maybe there's some other stuff. And that's kind of how I see that dichotomy between the practices. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think in today's world, patients want outcomes. They're not looking for
Mhm.
chiropractic care
Right.
per se. And don't throw needles at me here, but I think patients are looking more for outcomes. We're running in, I call it a very narcissistic marketing society today. People want something for themselves. So in the old days when we would educate patients a ton about chiropractic care, I don't know that patients today really are looking for that. They're not looking for, why am I coming to you? Why am I coming to a chiropractor? They're looking more at, how can the chiropractor help me reach the outcomes I'm looking for?
I think you
And
nailed that when you said
yeah,
that.
I think we're selling outcomes today.
Mhm.
And I hear some practices still wanting to do the old spinal care class at a report of findings and using every visit to hammer home how great chiropractic is. And I don't think it's a bad thing on any given day during your treatment plan with a patient. But I think more importantly, we have to make sure patients are connected to what the outcome potential is, because they didn't come to you looking for an adjustment, most likely. They came to you looking for an outcome. I can't play with my kids because my back hurts. I can't go to work because my neck hurts, whatever it might be. They're not looking for, okay, so I have back pain. So I need a chiropractor to adjust me. I don't know that patients are necessarily tying that together. I mean, it's just like going to a surgeon. You go to a surgeon because you have a gallbladder issue, for example. And are you looking for a surgeon to remove your gallbladder, or are you looking for a doctor to help you with the outcome of the symptoms you're feeling? And the surgery is the end result. Chiropractic care is the end result in a lot of cases. So I think we have to remember why the patients are coming to us.
I think we've switched gears a little bit because back in the day, what did we always do? The exam was a great time to educate patients about
Mhm.
chiropractic before we educated them even more. Now, I think the exam is a really great time to triage and talk about what options there are. What I like to talk about patients or talk to patients about is what are the options? Well, certainly chiropractic may be one of the answers that we want to use with you, but we also have other options. And here are what the other options are that tend to be successful for outcomes with this type of condition. And then what I like to also do without getting into dollars, because you and I've talked about this before, as the doctor, you should never get into the finances of the patient. But what I will tell a patient is listen, what I'm going to do is look at you. We're going to make an evaluation and we're going to determine what do we think really several avenues to the good outcome could be. Now, what is going to be the most cost effective? That may be the first approach we take if we feel like it's a viable option. So we want to preserve your pocketbook if we can. That's fine. Everybody wants to preserve their pocketbook. But if I feel like that we need to do whatever our most expensive service is, that may be the route that we go. But let's look at our options and let me lay these out for you. So rather than me educating about just chiropractic, I'm really talking about outcomes at that point and how we're going to get to those outcomes and tempering the patient's expectation, because you also have to say, while you're doing this, listen, this may work for 90% of people. 10% of people, this is not going to work for. We don't want you to be that one, but we have to be aware that it isn't foolproof. And so I talk through the options that way. And I think that opens up the avenues. And I think it opens up the avenue for the patient too. And here's what's really important about this. Catch this one thing. If I walk through all your options, okay, Michael, what we can do with your low back is, we do have some options with shockwave. We have some options with decompression, but it may be as simple as doing some flexion distraction with you and some ultrasound. What do you say we start with that first? And you're going to say, okay, but how about 3 visits in when your low back pain hasn't budged one iota? Okay. In the past, if I only offered chiropractic care and only one option, what did you do? You quit care, right?
Yep.
It's not working. Now, what do my patients do? Hey, doc, you talked to me a little bit about doing that decompression or that shock wave. I'm really interested in that because I just don't think my back's responding as quickly as I thought it would. What do you think? They'll ask me that. And I go, I think we need to give this a few more visits. Or, you know what? I'm in agreement with you. I think that you should have started to respond by this point. Let's shift gears and try another option at this point. So I think it gives you more options. And I think that's a big key, is having options rather than a single option in your practice.
I agree. So we need to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. But when we come back, I want to kind of tie that back into how that separates the ordinary practice, if you will, or the non-successful practice from the successful practice. So we'll be right back.
Affordable care shouldn't mean undervaluing yourself, but most chiropractors are still undercharging, especially when it comes to insurance allowances and cash patients with limited coverage. Chiro Health USA helps chiropractors charge appropriately, get paid well when insurance is available, and still serve patients with no or limited benefits, all through a compliant discount medical plan. The result? Doctors stop undercharging, raise fees, and increase income by about 20% without sacrificing care. That's not a discount strategy, it's a business strategy. Learn more at chirohealthusa.com.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're talking about successful versus not successful, and where does that paradigm shift come from? And Troy, I think you brought up a good point. In practice, we've got to be, I'm going to tie several things together here. In practice, we have to be patient-centric. And today, patient-centric means not just helping the patient understand chiropractic care, because I don't think that's as necessary as it used to be. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's as necessary. Number 2, we have to be very outcome focused. And to be outcome focused, if a patient isn't progressing in care, we need to have a bag of tricks. We need to have some options to present to the patient so that it's not a chiropractic care didn't work. What we want to hear is my chiropractic doctor, my doctor of chiropractic, my doctor of chiropractic medicine, whatever you go by in your state. My doctor helped me get great outcomes. My chiropractor helped me get great outcomes, not chiropractic didn't work. So if chiropractic doesn't work, let's try flexion distraction. Like you said, let's try mixing in some shockwave. Let's try mixing in some dry needling. Let's try mixing in some rehabilitative exercises. Let's try all these different components that we have. And I really think that's a lot of what separates success today from the less successful doctors. And Troy, we see this. There are doctors who have a lot of tools in their practice, but they don't use them.
They're not used.
Yeah, they may have bought a shockwave, but it's sitting over in the corner not being utilized.
And the patients don't even know that they utilize that. And so rather than them understanding that there are other avenues. They just think there's only one because that's what they were offered. So as a chiropractor, I think us offering multiple avenues, and again, like you said, outcomes, I think changes the game when a patient enters the room because they realize at that point now you become, which is really important, a valued addition to their healthcare team.
Right.
Now that patient comes to you and says, "Hey doc, I've got blah blah blah," and it may not even be within your scope. "I've got blah blah blah. What do you think about this?" And when you get to that point with patients, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, at that point, you are a valued member of their healthcare team. And the easiest way to get there, in my opinion, is not to just say chiropractic is the only answer for everything. Because unfortunately, in practice, like you said, we have to have a full bag of tricks because not everybody's going to respond as well as we'd like to that chiropractic adjustment. Because sometimes there's things holding them back. Sometimes it's not even you, right? It's the fact that they're type 2 diabetic, they smoke, they don't exercise,
You know, drink water.
they don't drink water, and they're not willing to make changes to any of that. They say, "I want you to fix me." Okay, well, we may have to pull out more tricks out of the bag if we're going to make that happen. While I encourage you at the same time, hey, if you did a couple of these things, it probably would improve your outcomes. That's a big thing. Like with smokers, I always tell them, "Listen, I'm not getting on you about smoking. I could sit here and chastise you and read you the riot act about why smoking is bad for you. You already know that it is. It's a habit that you have, and you have an addiction to nicotine. Totally get it. So I'm not here to make you feel bad about whatever your habit is. What I'm here to make you understand is that our outcomes may be a little bit lessened or a little bit slowed because you smoke, and that's going to reduce the amount of oxygen that's getting to your tissues." Patients appreciate that when you're just straightforward. "Hey, I'm a team member. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to scold you for your habits," because we've all got some, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Y- and one of the other things that I'm going to shift gears for a little bit. One of the other things that I think we have to be aware of what makes us successful today is not hiding behind insurance. So we're talking about having tools in your practice to be able to help the patient and help the patient along with something other than just chiropractic care. Well, chiropractic care is great. And again, don't shoot arrows at us for talking about chiropractic this way. Obviously, we love chiropractic. But to be successful today, we have to make sure that we have the tools to be able to help patients. So now, having the tools also means we have to have the mentality in our practice to charge for those services and help patients understand the necessity behind their investment in those services. So I see far too many doctors wanting to kind of do this quote bundle thing where, if you come in, you can get shockwave, a muscle stem, and adjustment for an adjustment price.
Mhm.
And they're not charging that fair market value for those extra services when they have huge value if they're helping the patient. So we've got to quit hiding behind that old insurance model and trying to make patients think care is cheap or copay based. So we've got to make sure that we're producing profit. That's the ultimate place where I was going in our practice. And a lot of doctors, unfortunately, don't even know where their profit points are.
And bundling, in my opinion, reduces the overall value of the treatment that you're giving.
Absolutely.
When I'm offering shockwave to a patient, if I try to reduce the value of that, now in their mind, they're going, "Well, that isn't that valuable of a thing because he's already cutting the price on this thing." I'm not being a nice guy. What I am is undercutting myself, not only financially, but I'm reducing the value to the patient because how many of us have bought like a premium product because we expect a premium outcome with it? Shockwave is one of those. I mean, I keep going back to that, but Shockwave is one. It's a little more expensive for us as docs to operate because it is a consumable every time that thing makes a clicking noise, right? It is a consumable. It only operates for so long. But with that said, you better know already what it costs you every time that thing makes a popping noise. Every time it clicks, you better know what it costs you. So you better know what your margin is. And if you start giving it away, quite frankly, you can actually cost yourself in the long run. So my staff and I talk about that all the time. What is our cost to operate that piece of equipment? if it were to reach, and we always use it, if it reaches the end of warranty. So end of warranty, here's what they're allowing for the end of warranty. If we reach this many clicks or this many shock waves, what does it cost us? So you have to look at your treatment methods like that. It's a little harder when you're looking at, say, an electrical stim machine, or it's a little harder when you're looking at dry needling, because maybe I put 5 needles in one patient and maybe I put 25 in the next patient. But I had to have an average of like, okay, what does it cost me to needle patients? So there's a bottom line on everything that you do. So you can't just give it away, number one, but to devalue it, which is what we're really talking about, to me, makes the patient think, well, that's not really worth that much.
Well, and here's the other thing you run into. If your patients during acute care phase come in and they get an adjustment in shockwave, for example, and you don't charge them for shockwave, you only charge them for the adjustment, or you give the appearance that that's what you're doing. The minute the patient's no longer on acute care and they go to maintenance care and they don't need shockwave anymore, guess what? They're asking, why am I paying the same price? Why am I not getting shockwave too? I like shock. That felt good. Why?
Yeah.
Now you've put yourself between a rock and a hard place with the patient, because you've done that shell game that now works against you.
That's 100%. And that's why it also makes it pretty tough when somebody wants to come in for a different service to not have multiple revenue streams. When we first started this conversation today, I talked about multiple revenue streams in your practice, and a patient may be calling for a specific revenue stream. And I'm going to use shockwave again, or they call for chiropractic, or they call for dry needling. Those are, yeah, and maybe decompression. Those are probably the big 4 that people call on the phone for in my practice. This is what I'm looking for. And they may or may not need that. And a lot of times they'll say, I'm not so sure that this is exactly what I need, but I heard from a friend of mine that you do this and it sounded like this might be effective for me. And that's where you put your doctor hat on and then go, okay, here's what's going on with you, and here's what I recommend. But let's say later on, if shockwave wasn't the answer and I go, hey, what you really need is a series of chiropractic adjustments. What if later on they have another problem that really would benefit from shockwave? Maybe we've got a tendonitis. Maybe we've got plantar fasciitis. Maybe we've got something that's going to benefit from a different technique that would be probably the primary technique, but it's been bundled prior. Okay. How do I justify that? Now you just pay for that. So now you just removed all of your additional revenue streams because you are running a business,
right?
It's like me going into Quick Shop and going, hey, you know what? My wife's not around today, so I can eat whatever I want for lunch, right? I'm going to get a Coca-Cola and a slice of gas station pizza. Now, why would I say that? Because I've done that before. I've done it. But here's the thing. I have never gone to the gas station and had them bundle my Coca-Cola and my slice of pizza. And if they did, I would expect that when I go in there, I'm going to get a slice of pizza and a Coke. I would not like very much then if they started charging me $4.99 for the pizza and $2 for the Coke, when it was $3.99 for both. Now, people run specials. I get it, but that's in the retail world with food. But when you're running a practice, that revenue stream needs to be separated. It really has to be, because otherwise you're going to talk to somebody that says, hey, so-and-so's friend told me that you would do this for this price. And you're like, oh man, I just shot myself in the foot because I'm losing money when I do that, or I'm barely breaking even. So then we run into the conundrum of, is it more important to be busy or profitable? I'm going to say it's more important to be profitable. So that's why having those multiple revenue streams available is so important. This is like an intricate crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle. When we put practice together, it's not as clear cut as the single piece.
Right.
You can only see the whole picture if you put the whole puzzle together, and that requires that you generate a profit, that you've got multiple revenue streams, if that's what you do. If you're a straight chiropractor, this probably isn't a conversation for you right now. But if you use any kind of therapies in your practice or adjuncts in your practice, this is exactly the conversation you need.
It is. And this is why we spend a great deal of time teaching doctors how to put together their fee structure, and then how to communicate it to patients, and then how to use it in practice. Because if you've got great tools and you never generate any profit out of them, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And so I'm gonna give everybody a little jewel here, and I don't normally give out little jewels like this, as you know, Trey.
Yeah.
But I want you, if you're listening this far in the podcast, go take a look at your collection visit average. And if your collection visit average is within 30% of your adjustment price, your adjustment fee, your fee strategy is wrong. Period. End of story. And you should be on the phone calling us to help find out, how do I fix this? Because you're shooting yourself in your own practice. You're depressing your own profitability and your own revenue by not charging correctly for these things. There is a fair market value to everything. And, I hear this all the time, well, agents won't pay for that. To heck, they won't. The most successful practices, if we want to talk about success versus mediocre success, huge success versus mediocre in the chiropractic world today, it's the 100% all cash practices that are shooting the lights out. Don't tell me that patients won't pay. Troy, your practice is all cash. My practice was all cash. We know what this is. And, we help doctors do this all the time. So we understand this process. So go check your collection visit average when we get done with this podcast.
Yeah, that's 100% true. When you talk about the cash aspect of that, patients have to have whole buy-in, total buy-in when you're in a cash practice. So we have to be very succinct. We also have to provide a clear picture for the patient for them to make a decision when you're running a cash practice. So this isn't one of those deals where we're going, well, you have a $25 copay. Like, and some of you are still operating in insurance. Back when I did, there really wasn't a whole lot of well, I have a $25 copay, do whatever you need to do. It's a little different when you offer more services or different services. Now the front desk does have to have that conversation with them about what it is. But that's another, remember what I said about the jigsaw puzzle? Pull on a thread and go all over the map on this thing, because what else do we have to do? Staff have to understand the process. They have to understand the services. That's why having somebody consult with you for you when you work on this to set up a process to get you in position to actually offer these services is really important, because just putting it out there and saying, well, we're going to start offering this service really, in a lot of cases, ends up with a piece of dusty equipment in the corner.
Yeah, it does. Too often.
Unfortunate.
So we need to hit another word from our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to kind of wrap things up in this podcast. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Patient numbers dipping, staff overwhelmed, and another marketing idea promising the world but delivering nothing. These pressures feel familiar to nearly every chiropractic clinic today. Across the country, chiropractors work hard, yet many find themselves stuck, balancing patient care with the nonstop demands of running a business. That's where the real strain begins. Most clinics face the same set of hurdles: inconsistent new patient flow, operational bottlenecks, and the constant challenge of staying visible in an overcrowded digital space. National reports show that over 60% of clinics struggle with scheduling efficiency alone, and even more lack a clear marketing strategy that reliably converts. But the good news? These challenges aren't roadblocks, they're signals. With the right procedures, smarter outreach, and guidance built specifically for chiropractic practices, clinics can turn daily stress into sustainable growth. Stronger clinics start with smarter strategies. Grow your practice with confidence. Book your strategy session with CATS Consultants.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. Troy, we've been talking about successful practices and what makes them. And I think we hit on something very important today, that in today's world, we have to be, number one, patient focused, not chiropractic focused. And I don't mean eliminating chiropractic from your treatment plans. I mean spending more time connecting patients to what the expected outcomes are, rather than helping them understand how great chiropractic is. It requires a mix of both in a lot of cases. The other thing is making sure you have additional services and that you're charging for them. Far too often, and I hate this, our profession seems to always be a race to the bottom when it comes to profitability. Let's rise up and be who we are and what we deserve to be by charging for what we do. Patients will pay for it. period, end of story. And if you're having trouble with that in your practice, give us a call, or go to our website, catsconsultants.com. Our phone number is on there. Go check out all the great things that we're doing. If you want to just talk about your practice, jump on one of our schedules and let's have a little breakthrough call. Let's spend 20 minutes and talk about your practice and where your trouble points are and how we might be able to help you. Troy, anything to add?
I think we could probably talk for the next 3 hours about several of the items on here, but I think we stop there because that really gives you a clearer picture. If you're a practice that's been very down the middle with kind of one revenue stream or maybe a couple of revenue streams, it gives you an idea of how to expand your practice easily. But it's challenging to get it all right. The pricing, staff training, promoting it correctly, rolling it out to where the patients are embracing it. And so there's multitudes of that. So, like you said, having a breakthrough call with us, there's no obligation with that. You just get a hold of us and we talk to you about your practice because we're interested in practices. And if we can offer you something that can help you, man, what a benefit to you. And it makes us happy too, because we love helping chiropractors.
We do, and we're all about innovation. We're not about what worked 20 years ago and go try this and that. We're all about creating new ways to look at the chiropractic business model. And I'm telling you, it's changed and it's continuing to change. And we are staying on the cutting edge of what makes practices successful. So we're absolutely no pressure. So again, go check us out at catsconsultants.com. We always appreciate everybody listening every week. So our podcast is growing like crazy. So be sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends about this. And we appreciate Chiro Health USA being part of our sponsorship as well. So from all of us here at Cats Consultants, we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.